Welcome back to Eddie Robinson Stadium here in the postgame show. Bulldogs lose to the Grambling State Tigers by a score of 41-20. Ted, tough game here today for the Bulldogs, but we saw some bright spots from freshman quarterback Deontay Mason.
Let's just say from right now, I was wrong thinking we were going to come down here and be real effective against this Grambling defense. Grambling comes out, gets a fast start on the Bulldogs, but we answer. We're leading 10-7 at one point as Lee gets ready to recap the scoring. But our real problem today, Ulysses Banks goes out with a left ankle injury, does not return. Kevin Atkins is ineffective at quarterback. We go to Deontay Mason, probably too little, a whole lot rather, but just too late for us to really be effective and stay in this ball game.
Bulldogs got the ball first, went 3 and out. Grambling State takes their opening drive, 4 plays, 88 yards, 1 minute, 10 seconds. Bakari Maxwell caught the 18-yard touchdown reception. Grambling State on top 7-0. Bulldogs come back, 11 plays, 71 yards. Lycia with a 27-yard field goal. Score was 7-3. Bulldogs come back with Deontay Mason at quarterback. He takes it 66 yards on a run. And the Bulldogs, that was a 2-play, 75-yard drive. 57 seconds off the clock. Bulldogs led it 10-7. As I said, Deontay Mason, 66-yard touchdown run. Grambling State comes back. They take the lead 14-10. Rodell Pippin out of the Wildcat formation, 11-yard run. Bulldogs would get a field goal, 26 yards from Lycia. 14-13 was the score. And then Grambling State took over and took control of this game. Dillon found Frank Warren on a 12-yard screen pass. 9 plays, 70 yards, 2 minutes, 52 seconds. Grambling State on top 21-13. They would add a field goal before the end of the half, and that was 26-yard field goal. Ari Johnson, actually that was their opening drive of the third quarter, 26-yard field goal, and the Tigers led it 24-13. Grambling State got another touchdown from Cornelius Walker, 26-yard run, 31-13 is the score. Grambling State came back. Pippin out of the Wildcat formation, 4 yards, 38-13 was the score. And then Ari Johnson connected on a 40-yard field goal. That made it 41-13. Bulldogs went with Deontay Mason for the remaining of the game. He found Quentin Carlock on a 7-yard touchdown pass. Final score, Grambling State 41, Alabama A&M 20, Ted.
And you mentioned a bright spot, Deontay Mason, 11 carries, 122 yards, 1 touchdown, goes to the passing game, 10 completions on 20 attempts for 107 yards and a touchdown. Deontay Mason is responsible for 2 scores today. On the receiving side for the Alabama A&M University Bulldogs, Thomas Harris, 5 receptions for 50 yards, Rashad Johnson, 4 receptions for 50 yards, Anthony Mitchell, 4 receptions for 35 yards, and Ulysses Banks, 1 reception for 36 yards. Before Banks goes out, he has 6 rushing attempts for 26 yards and also 2 kickoff returns for 20 yards total, longest being 11.
Ted, looking at some defensive stats, the Bulldogs today only 1 sack. Marcus Poe with a half sack, Jeremy Maddox with a half sack. Bulldogs defensive unit led the nation in sacks, NCAA, and lead the SWAC in sacks at 3.4 per game, 17 total, unable to get to the quarterback today.
A little bit delayed blitz didn't work. Grambling's massive offensive line kept the Bulldogs at bay. We did have several tackles for loss. Frank Kearse leading the way on that. Of course, with also Vernon Marshall, who's another tackling machine today, finishing with 11. Now, Lee, the change with Ulysses Banks being injured means we're going to see more of Tony Green. 13 rushing attempts today for 28 yards. And Terrell Beatty, who I liked looking at him in warm-ups and just watching the 2 carries that he had today for 35 total yards. This may be the game where we just found some extra depth at our skill position players.
Vernon Marshall, as you mentioned, led the team in tackles for the 2nd straight week, 11 total tackles today.
True
Marcus
freshman.
Poe with 2.5 tackles for loss. Ted, that's going to wrap up our post-game coverage. Your final thoughts from Eddie Robinson Stadium. Bulldogs lose 41-20.
I hate losing to Grambling. This hurts my heart more than anything else in the world, and not the fact of what the scoreboard says, but for the work that these student athletes have put in to try to come back and put themselves in position to get to the SWAC championship game. This loss here makes the rest of our season more difficult. That means we can't lose to Prairie View, we can't lose to Jackson State, and oh, by the way, Mississippi Valley State looks like a more formidable opponent than they did. Alcorn State next week, having all the hoopla around the Steve McNair tribute that's going to take place next week.
Well, they're homecoming.
That's right. These things loom big in our future, but as Coach Jones says, it's a challenge that's in front of us and one that we are happy to accept.
Bulldogs lose it 41-20. That's going to wrap our post-game coverage up from Eddie
Over
Robinson
already.
Stadium. Yes, it's over. Long bus ride home for Ted Dixie, Michael Burns, Raymond Cutts Jr. I want to thank each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon on 90.9 WJAB. I'm Lee Jean, folks, saying good night, everyone.